Welcome to What's What with Heather Harris, the podcast for the fiercely hopeful. Here, we explore the lesser-known innovations, overlooked ideas, and hidden forces quietly shaping our human experience. I'm your host, Heather Harris. Let's find out what's what. What does it mean to create something you will never live to see completed? In a world that moves at an unprecedented speed, today's conversation invites us into a radically different rhythm, one that is not measured in months or even decades, but in generations. The Future Library is an artwork that spans a century. Each year, one author contributes a manuscript that will remain unread until 2114. Each work will be printed upon pages delivered from the Norwegian forest that is now growing, and yet none of us will be here when the books are finally opened. So why do it? What is the point? It is an exercise that has already revealed a connection to time, the environment, and our own humanity. Today, I am joined by Anne Beate Hovind, one of the visionaries behind this extraordinary project. We explore together what it means to think beyond our own lifespan, to participate in something that asks for trust, imagination, and a kind of quiet faith in our shared future. We talk about cross-generational stewardship and the discovery of a fundamentally human shift that happens when we move from short-term consumption to long-term contribution. If curiosity is an act of hope, then projects like this one are hope made tangible. This episode is an invitation not just to admire the Future Library, but to ask ourselves, what are we building that will outlive us? What rituals anchor us to the future? And what becomes possible when we start thinking in centuries instead of seasons? Let's step in to that long view. Welcome, Anne Beate, to What's What with Heather Harris. I'm very, very grateful for you taking the time to join me today because I think this is a very exciting but also important subject that we're talking about today. You initiated the Future Library, which some of my listeners may not have heard of. And this was in collaboration with the Scottish artist Katie Patterson. Can you tell me a little bit about this outstanding project?
Yeah, it's a long story. I commission art in public space. So Katie Patterson, which is Scottish, and I'm in Oslo, Norway. She was invited to propose an art project for the waterfront development in Oslo. And so she was here, and then, after doing a lot of research, and also after staying in the deep forest for a week, she literally came out of there and she said, I have the perfect idea for the waterfront development, and it's going to last for 100 years. And I said, no, no. We don't want that. We'd rather have an ordinary sculpture. No, I'm just kidding. But, so she proposed this conceptual art project. It lasts for 100 years. We have planted a forest with 1,000 trees. There is a specific design room that we made out of the timber from the forest we cut. And it's in the new public library in Oslo on the 5th floor. And in that room, there are 100 boxes. In 10 of them today, there are 10 manuscripts. But we have hundreds of them. So every year for 100 years, we commission a new author that is invited to write an unpublished and unread text by the authors. And they have to come to Oslo, walk to the forest, and hand the manuscript over in the forest. It's amazing. And then in 2114, which is the 100th year, we will take them, I'll be dead, but we will take them all out at the same time and print them on paper made out of the forest, which is growing now. It's a conceptual art project. It sounds maybe a little bit complicated, but it all came true, even though when she first proposed it, I had no idea how to make it happen.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's a beautiful idea. I love that link between the forest and the actual manuscript, that ecological link. But there must have been difficulties or challenges, even conceptually. How do you get this from the idea stage to execution?
Oh, that is such a long story because I could start with the last one with the authors because when we started this project, that was the last brick that was in place, pushed in place because we had no idea how other artists, authors would respond to be invited to another artist's work.
Mm,
So when we reached out to Margaret Atwood as the first author, we had no idea how she would respond. But she immediately came back to us and she said, yes, I want to be part of this. So Margaret Atwood was the first, and now we have 12 authors, a
amazing.
fantastic lineup. But so the author thing was one, but then how do you get space to grow a forest, for instance?
Right.
And how do you convince a city development board of engineers and economists to wanting to trust in 100-year lasting work?
Exactly.
We're too short-term oriented these days, So I didn't even tell them that actually in the beginning. It was 100 years.
Probably wise.
Yeah, because I think this is part of the producing skills is that which brick do I lay first or in
Mm.
what row? And then how do I wait with a lot of things because nobody would believe in it in the beginning.
Right. Yeah. So you just had to approach it sort of step by step, a little piece by little piece to get to where you wanted to go. Yeah, I can imagine that that would be a tough sell. I didn't think about another artist being hesitant to be involved with another artist's work, but yeah, that could have presented a real obstacle. I'm quite proud as a Canadian to hear that Margaret
Mhm.
Atwood was your first author to accept and sort of led the way for the following artists. She's a remarkable human being, and I have to say I'm not surprised.
Not big, but she got it. The first, just to tell you this, that I think Margaret Atwood got the core of the work immediately. I think
Hmm.
she very intuitively she understood that this is something that concerns her a lot. And I think the ones that read her as a dystopian, for me, she is the opposite. So she's a very hopeful person, right?
Hmm.
So she immediately said that this is a work of hope
Hmm.
because it's insisting on the future. It's insisting there will be a Norway, as she says, there will be books, there will be readers. So it's a very optimistic and hopeful project in that. So, but back in 2014, when she was commissioned, most of the journalists were asking questions like, will there be books in 100 years? Like physical
Oh,
books.
right.
So they were concerned about the digital challenges. But not Margaret Atwood. I think now they never ask that anymore. I think all of us know that there will be books in 100 years. Or it's not the physical book itself that is the problem. I think people thought people would stop buying books, but nothing, it doesn't look like that, right? So,
Absolutely not. It's my greatest pleasure in life, book shopping and browsing.
yeah. But at the same time, of course, we are worried about youngsters spending too much on digital devices. So, of course, there is a challenge here that we need to make sure kids learn how to concentrate over a certain time to be able to read books and stuff. That is a more universal problem in itself that we have to deal with.
Attention span and focus. It really
Yes,
has been
exactly.
compromised. I mean, you find that at any age, but certainly with our young people, it's something that we have to address going forward. So you mentioned that this project spans a period of time between 2014, when you were launched, and 2114, with the forest that will become the paper for the anthology. Can you tell me in your own words what it means to tie literature to ecology in such a literal way?
Hmm, interesting. I'm not sure it was meant to be that way. I'm not the artist, so I have to just resonate with you about it. But
Mm.
I think I think what's interesting about this work, I have to rethink it now. I just came back from India. Our next author is Amitav Ghosh. and he's from India.
Yeah.
And so I was there, and I was at Jaipur Literature Festival, an incredible literature festival in Jaipur, and a lot of interesting authors. And what was interesting there is people's like respond to the work, and they said it's a slow project for peace. It's like a march. It's a slow march for peace. And that's interesting. I've never heard that before. But of course this was in India, so this is how it resonated with people there. And I think that's what's incredible interesting with art. If it works, it doesn't really give you the answers, but it triggers a lot of discussions.
Yes.
So I think like the digital book that came, but now it's much more about intergenerational justice, for instance. Also, democratization of the future, which has to do with involving young people that are not yet born in decision making for the future. And you also have trust as such, hope, and climate. And I think already this year we had to add new species in the forest to make it more resilient.
Oh, really?
A diverse forest is more resilient than a forest with only spruce. So we added pine. We did not introduce, we just got other pines around in the area further down in the valley where it is already warmer. And we introduced them and planted them in the future library forest. That's climate change.
That is climate change. And that is a learning that is going to be taking place over the entire time span of this project. So how do you plan for that? How do you put people and caregivers and caretakers of this project in place when, as you mentioned, you're not going to be around to see the outcome?
Yeah, I wish, I think being part of this work is a fortune. I'm so humbled because I have to admit that it feels life-changing. What really amazes me is that how it resonates with people from all over the world, not across ethnicities, across religion, across borders, and also like any differences. And that makes me think that it is about basic human needs and that we are in need of now, that we have in common. So, so people email, people find other ways to communicate on social media. There's so many people wanting to be involved. And of course, this is a tiny project, I have to say. It's a tiny project, but I think that's, for me at least, having to think it's going to last for 100 years. I kind of, on a personal level, decided to live the work, be the work in a way. And of course, I've set up a trust. The formal structure is all in place. But it is really about letting people be involved. And I hope to expand those possibilities. People can come, people can watch the streaming and all that. And so but finally, it is about trust.
It is about trust.
Finally, it is about trusting the coming generations that they care, taking this on and finish it in 2114. But usually I turn that the other way because I think it's trust is a mutual thing. So they also have to trust us that we care, starting these cross-generational projects now for them to fulfill. Do you understand?
I absolutely understand. And I think in the essence of the future library demonstrates that trust in our future generations, in our younger generations. What a beautiful thing. What a beautiful,
I'm
beautiful
not
thing to
saying it's
embody.
easy, and I'm not.
No.
But I totally agree with you that that's, I guess, what I am saying. I feel fortunate being part of it because, and people say, aren't you curious don't you want to read the manuscripts? And I've never been because I feel the gift for me is being in the process.
Yeah, that's almost the least important aspect of it. I mean, it's going to be a wonderful surprise and a wonderful unveiling, but yeah, it's this reciprocity with the future and our younger generations that I think is really what is this beautiful seed of it all.
And to me, creating a ritual that people take part of either physically or remotely on streaming is to see people come back year after year, taking children and grandchildren, building this community, this shared experience, contemplating experience in the forest. It's a very hopeful thing to do.
Absolutely. Tell me a little bit about that ritual when the author
Yeah.
comes to the forest.
You know, I'm from the deep forest myself, so I it's really interesting how I feel like walking into the forest is. I always have this devil on my shoulder saying, "It's just a forest. It's just a forest." Because when I grew, I'm not very sentimental about forest. I wasn't because since I grew up in the deep forest on a farm, but I become more and more, and I understand the depth of the forest more and more. So that ritual turns out to be, for the authors, the most important thing to do. Being present, walking together with a crowd of people, doing the ritual is an enormous, beautiful ceremony that you are doing. And so what happens that morning we meet in a clearing outside the forest, and we walk together with the authors to that specific forest called Future Library Forest, which is a tiny clearing, not a clearing anymore, by the way, because the trees are growing. The trees are growing.
Excellent.
So we have to realize it's going to be a different experience throughout the years.
Right.
And then we walk there, and it's a very simple ritual where it's a handing of, we listen to music, we listen to the author's reading, not the manuscript, but something else. And the mayor says something, the forester says something, and the authors are welcome to say things, and also to let us know the title of the work. That's the only thing we get to
Okay,
know.
okay.
And maybe the most important is that finishing this ritual off, we listen to nature together in silence.
Oh,
And can you imagine? That's the most powerful thing to do.
I can imagine.
And the other day, I had this. I was also at this conference, and this young man, he shared the sound of birds that are disappearing.
Oh.
So listening to nature, realizing that sounds will disappear,
Hmm.
it's so powerful.
It is. It's an impermanent planet that we live on. Change is built into its very fabric. I'm trying to put myself in the shoes of these authors who have created these manuscripts, and they're handing it over not to be read by anybody really currently living. I wonder what's going through their minds. Have any of the authors, you don't have to give me their names, but have any of them ever shared with you what they felt in that moment?
Yes, they speak about it. I know that, for instance, Amitav in public, he shared this. I can tell him Amitav Ghosh is the last author, and he thought it was going to be very easy to write. He experienced it's quite difficult. And then you also have Margaret Atwood and Karl Ove Knausgård. I don't know if you know, he's a Norwegian author. He's famous for writing very openly about family stuff in very thick books, at least the
Okay.
previous ones. And of course, they have been asked, you can be even more honest now or sharing more. And I think for most of the author it has been how I read them and how I hear them talking about it, is that it's a relief not having critics
Yes, yeah.
waiting for it.
Hmm.
But also, I think what we all share is to do something for not the immediate response, actually to give something to the future that is not for you to get the appreciation directly
Mm-hmm.
is also a very important experience, I think. It's about long-termism.
It's altruistic, it's
Yeah,
selfless
yeah. It's not for my sake, it's for someone else. Yeah.
for someone else to enjoy in the future.
Around the work, there's also a discussion on this short-termism is our greatest threat, not and that we have to reintroduce long-termism. And of course, the work is an example of that. And I've been thinking back since I grew up on a farm myself. There's only two generations that have been so short-term oriented, this immediate more kind of thing that so we need projects and works and lives or processes that last for more than a generation, these cross-generational. What is interesting, what we have managed in this work, which is very unusual, at least for the municipality in Oslo, is that they signed 100-year contract. And it was a political decision, which means that politicians can commit across elections
Mm-hmm.
and across budgets and also across political interest for the commons.
Mm-hmm.
That is also something I think has to be in place if we're going to think and also plan and work on cross-generational projects and also to fix the planet, if you understand what I mean.
This is an incredibly important aspect, I think, of the future library, because that is something that I know in my own country in Canada, but we can see it around the world that is so lacking. There's no commitment to anything that doesn't have an immediate reward or outcome that can be measured. And so we lose so much. Not even, I mean, if you just consider architecture or anything in the physical built world, but more importantly, for our planet, for our climate, for our food supply, for the health of our water, everything. And it's important not only within national boundaries, but together as a species, a caretaking
Mm.
species on this planet.
Mm.
So, what an incredible
Yeah, and
aspect
I
to
think
this.
it's there is like this term called futures literacy, and I think this notion of understanding time,
Mm.
not only as short-termism but also long-termism, is part of that literacy about
Hmm.
the future. So I think, yeah, that's what's so fascinating. I think with this work that it constantly opens up new discussions and new questions. Yeah.
It really does. I mean, on the surface of it, when I first discovered the Future Library, I just thought it was a wonderful idea, almost like a time capsule. But there's
Mm.
so many more layers and facets to it that we're exploring today. So, what qualities, when you're selecting an author, when you and the trust are selecting an author, what are you keeping in mind?
The artist, Katie Patterson, has set up two criteria:
Okay.
imagination and time. There's so many authors in this world.
Yes.
Okay, so the trustees, the board of trustees, are the ones that will decide which authors to invite. Kate is part of that. I'm part of that. And then the rest of the trustees, we have discussions and we make the decision. So the first year we had Margaret Atwood on the top of the list. And we had like both a long list and a short list, because we had no experiences. What will happen, when this is known in the
Yeah.
world? There's no way we could understand the impact of this world and the global outreach. There's no way. And so we thought for some reason, we thought we could start on the top and just move forward downwards every year. But this is not how it works. So we learned again that the selection process is very organic. It seems like when you have this Brit called Margaret Atwood and David Mitchell and Sean, you need to reconfigure constantly, and you have to start almost all over again every year when you select an author.
Okay.
And there has been discussions or response, in the world that it's about protecting languages, for instance, because Sean, he's from Iceland and it's a threatened language.
Mm-hmm.
And it's also become a very global project. So we are approached by people, individuals, but also groups, but also countries that wants to be represented.
Really?
So that's also a part of it in a way, which is fantastic.
Mm-hmm.
It has some practical challenges for us because we are not the Nobel. We don't have the
Right.
we're not even in the Booker Prize, and I think they have a lot more resources than we have to research and all do that. So it is something else. So we also depend on the dialogue with people all over the world
Mm-hmm.
to get input and ideas, and so we are very open to have not nominees, but at least people telling us which one authors to look at.
Right. Having suggestions.
Mm.
It's funny, you're not the Nobel or the Booker, but there is an incredible honor, I would imagine, to be selected or approached to submit a manuscript.
Well, I'm not the right person. I'm too involved to say that, but the response is amazing.
Is
Yeah,
it?
so we can interpret it that way in a way. Yeah.
Right. It reflects on the entire project. Has there been one moment in the forest ceremony, in the ritual, that has stayed with you in the last how many years now? 12 years?
I have to say there's a lot of moments. It's very emotional. One year, a friend of mine, I saw her sitting, someone I knew, sitting amongst the people on the ground, between the trees, and she was crying so heavily, and I was starting getting worried that something had happened, but she was really
Yeah.
just moved.
Oh
She
my
told me afterward.
goodness.
So I was a
Yeah.
little bit like, what is this? No, I must say, walking to the forest with Han Kang. She's our fifth author, and she got the Nobel 2 years ago. She chose to perform walking with a white cloth after her,
Oh my
and
goodness.
representing both death and birth. And when we came to the forest where everyone was gathered, she sat down and she wrapped her manuscript into this white cloth. It was so emotional. And it was like she was giving away a baby.
Yeah.
And everyone could feel that this was a very strong moment for her too.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I can feel it even just witnessing the story itself.
It's one example of beautiful moments.
Hmm. And you're in a beautiful environment too, and the connection with nature always, at least for me, brings up emotion.
Mm.
As Katie Patterson has commented, though 100 years is not long on a universal scale, it is quite confronting on a human scale. And we've touched on that a little bit. What do you think crosses the minds of those who contemplate the long unfolding of the project? And I don't necessarily mean the people who are directly involved, but those who are visiting, in the new library, the physical space. What do you think crosses their minds?
I'm there quite often. If I have time and people email me, I meet them there because I think that is interesting in
Hmm.
itself to know how do people respond and experience. The other day, I had 15 students from Canada, Toronto,
Oh, you're
actually,
kidding.
with their professors. Uh, and when we entered the room, two small girls were sitting there in quiet, and one was reading, two sisters, and one was writing. So there's so many beautiful moments, and I think that young people like these two girls, they're just so amazed about the secrets in the room.
Yes. Uh-huh.
and
Absolutely.
and how can we open the boxes? What do the key look like? Is there like something magic we have to say? They have,
Yeah.
it's just trigger their imagination and their fantasy constantly, and they're jumping up and down and trying to get it out and all that. So I think for young people, sometimes I feel like this is too general after all. But some people will think more rational about it.
Mm.
I often find that people my age and older get very emotional.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, I think,
It's our mortality, right?
and our worries, right?
Yes. Our
What we're leaving
anxieties.
behind.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think in the time we live now, at least from our perspective in Europe, but I think this comes for all of us, there's so many things happening on so many levels, and although the increase of wars, and I think a lot of people cannot find ways to articulate their
Mm-hmm.
worries. And I think suddenly when you find yourself in this room and it's like a bench where you watch it, you look in each other's faces, so you are face to face, it's not digital. I believe we need these meeting places, these community places where we can look into each other's eyes and experience that we have something in common, or
Yes.
that we actually are in common, if you understand.
We are each other. And to be
Yeah,
reminded of the beauty and the magic of humanity
yeah, exactly.
that can take place in these spaces.
And I think this comes for us, at least for me, that grew up after the World War II. And in Norway, oil, we all became wealthier and not many worries. And we believed with when the Soviet cracked down, there's so much optimism. It's always going to be better.
Mm.
And now I'm not sure how we feel about that anymore, and so I think that's why I think for my generation older, I always meet people that are facing our mortality, but also it's like a outlet of worries.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. It's a place where you can let them free a little bit.
So lots of different experiences,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
but there are something in common. There was a professor at MIT. She was visiting, doing research on it, and she was sitting just at the entrance, speaking to everyone that came in, trying to understand what is this? What is it that we have in common that we this resonate with? And at least the closest she got that summer was it's almost like a baby. We all know how to take care of,
Nurture.
caring, and nurture a baby. Yeah.
Yeah. It is like a baby in its infancy still. There's still a long way to go before this baby finds its legs. So, from a governance perspective, what are the greatest risks or concerns or worries that you might have when you're trying to keep this century-long promise?
Oh, oh, there's so many.
A hard
I mean,
question.
I know, and I always say I use this because I teach in university and stuff about art in public space, and I also work in the construction business. I build a hospital and all that, so I'm quite linear, but I'm also very explorative. And I keep saying, if the board had told me to do a risk assessment when Katie proposed it, nothing would have happened.
Really? Yeah.
Because that's true, and that's a very important thing to learn, that if you are asking art project like this to do a risk assessment, you will not do it. You're not in control of budget, time,
Mm-hmm.
forest fires, climate change. I mean, there's so much risk.
Mm-hmm.
So you have to just take the risk.
You have to trust.
You
Yeah.
have to trust this to happen. So there's lots of worries.
Yeah.
So I've done my best to set up the structures and everything and the contract, but then the rest I have to trust the trustees in the years to
Yes.
come
Yeah.
to solve whatever that can happen. There might be some devastating things that can happen, but the core of the work will survive, I'm sure. There might be a fire in the forest, if you understand what I mean. Yeah.
Absolutely. And I think that, that will just weave its way into the evolution of this endeavor, because that is also what it means to be human and be collaborative. There is always change and always unexpected change.
Mm.
So we have spoken about how this project embodies hope and trust. Was that a part of the blueprint when planning this project, either in Katie's mind, or did you think that would be an outcome?
No, not that explicit as it has become.
Yeah.
And there's different. So I'm the producer, right? So I think sometimes what I argue is that that's why we need artists, because artists' works are trained and are much more intuitively, they work much intuitively. So they kind of feel what's cooking. Can I put it that way? In the easy
Yeah.
way?
Yeah. Yeah.
Something
Makes
is
sense.
cooking, and there's no language for that. So I don't think Katie thinks I'm going to make a hopeful project, if you understand what I mean. It's
Yes.
more like she is reading the world, and maybe she can't even articulate that this will become a hopeful project. I don't remember we spoke about that at all.
Really.
So I think this is the magic of art, honestly.
Mm-hmm.
If you dare to trust the creative process, you will get art which is extremely relevant and more relevant that you can rationally think of.
It's inspiring.
Yeah,
It's inspiring.
also, I think that's the best way to explain it. I don't have good answers to everything.
Well, listen, and that's part of it too, right? Where
Yeah.
it's still evolving. So there are
Mm.
no answers, I think, really. I think you just have to, at a moment in time, there will be interpretations, but maybe not
Mm.
answers until the final moment. So the future library depends on writers, funders, foresters, curators, future readers, all to care for something that they may not personally ever benefit from. What have these people taught you about being invested and willing to care for a future that we won't see?
I get emotional when you ask that. I think, well, it's very personal then, because I think I'm thinking about my grandchildren,
Mm.
and I'm thinking specifically, of course, they are there and they might live to see it being finished. But I feel it's really, I want to do what I can do to make the world a better place. So that's my driving force, actually. And so I think we are all in it together. So my responsibility feels like I will communicate, I will speak with you, I will do the work every year. And so I think we are all needed. We have to work on this together for the future. And that's also why I think the future library work in itself resonate with people all over the world. Because again, you cannot do it alone. You have to do it with someone else, and you have to build that community. So it's not like one success factor. It's like it's the common
Hmm.
that has to solve it. Does it make sense?
It does. It
Okay, good.
absolutely makes sense. It's a touchstone that brings people together, and it's a physical and also a conceptual reminder of the role that we have to play now
Yes.
and
Yes.
every day going forward and every generation behind us to correct wrongs or just to do what we can to make this beautiful, beautiful world a happy and healthy place to exist. I can't think of anything more important.
No, and based on what, no, not me neither. And that's why I get a bit emotional again,
Mm-hmm.
because I really think that what this work really has taught me is that there's more in common, we have in common, that it makes us different. Okay, so if that's what it is, for me, that takes an active choice. I like the one me better, choosing humanity, focusing on what we have in common better than the other choice, So you have to it's an active choice every day to choose to focus in what we have in common and
Mm-hmm.
humanity.
And if only more of us can do that.
Yeah.
I hope everybody hears those words in a world that seems increasingly divided.
Mm.
But there is the hope, and
Mm.
there are projects like this. How can my listeners become more connected, either with this project or anything that you can offer them that can help them become more engaged?
They're welcome to email. They're welcome to come to Oslo. They're welcome to, to support in any way. But I think my personal dream, is that I understand that the whole world cannot come to the forest. It's not sustainable, actually,
Mm-hmm.
in not any way. But what a dream for me would be, when it comes to Future Library in particular, is that you can create a ritual where you are. You
Oh, I
can
love that.
you can meet, and you can watch the streaming of the ritual in the forest. You can even find your own forest and create that sacred space with more people. So you can introduce these rituals in and connect to Future Library and share that with us. And we would love that to happen, because that's the more sustainable way it should happen. But then on the other side, I hope, instead of thinking things are impossible, I hope people can be inspired by Future Library, that we thought was impossible, but we managed to make it happen. That it is possible to start cross-generational projects,
Yeah.
and do so, be inspired, and use it as an example that it is possible, actually.
Yeah, it's something we definitely can hold up as a beacon
Yeah.
for future projects like these. I can't think of I'm emotional now, a more beautiful.
You're welcome to.
It's hard not to be. I mean, this is just,
Yeah.
it's a cup filling conversation, most certainly, but it is a very acute reminder of our humanity and the importance of collaboration and community. And I'm very grateful. Thank you very much for this conversation.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining me on What's What with Heather Harris. If you enjoyed this conversation, please follow, rate, and share the show. It helps others find their way here, because the more the merrier. The future is something that we influence and imagine together. I'm Heather Harris, and until next time, stay curious and stay fiercely hopeful.